And it was like a completely different feeling, a different energy. People nodded. They were like, oh, that makes sense. So instead of me thinking that they're trying to attack me, my thought was, well, maybe they just need more information. And the whole landscape
Mm-hmm.
changed. So the way that we do that here, this is I'll give you like probably one of the most powerful strategies that we can utilize, but it's not easy. It's not cookie cutter. It's not, quick fix, because that's not how it is. I say that soft skills, emotional intelligence, building confidence, it's exactly comparable to going to the gym. Okay. You can go to the gym for 8 hours in a day and train for 8 hours straight. And you're like, I got the best workout ever, but it's not sustainable and you're not going to see results. You're just going to be really fatigued. You're going to be fatigued that day, right? It's the exact same thing when learning these skills. People think like, let's do an 8-hour leadership retreat and then like not address it again for another year. It's like, it's not going to create the shift that you want to see. So with this example and this strategy I'm going to give you, you need to do it like consistently so that you can start to coach yourself. It's called the 4 Bs to reverse engineering. Okay, reverse engineering your thoughts. So when you have like silence and presence, I want you to ask yourself, what's one limiting belief? Just one. We all have like thousands, but what's one limiting belief that you have that's getting in the way of your success? Like it's stopping you from moving forward. Okay. For some people, it's nobody listens to me because I'm too young. For some people, it's if I say no and create healthy boundaries, people aren't going to like me and then I'm not going to get opportunities. You see what I mean? Like these are all like different belief patterns that we have. For some people, it's if I raise my hand in a meeting and say something that sounds stupid, that I'm going to be judged and potentially. So we all have these things. So I just want you to ask yourself, what's one limiting belief that you currently have that's getting in the way of your success? That's the B, the belief. Okay. Then the second B is the backstory. Where does that belief come from? Because all of us, our belief construct, as I mentioned earlier, Jason, it's an accumulation over the years from other people that also struggled with self-confidence, right? So your parents, society, friends, family, lovers, they all have belief systems, and oftentimes they project their beliefs onto you.
Right.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
sometimes it's intentional and sometimes they're not aware of it, right? Like they might say something that's a limiting belief and you're like, no, I don't have that belief, right? Like, for example, as I mentioned, I'm getting married. So we're having a lot of conversations around like kids. And my future husband was like, well, when we start to have kids, it's going to be hard for us to like travel. And I'm like, oh, I don't have that belief system. I don't believe that kids are going to be an excuse for us to like live a great life with the kids. But you see
Right.
how it's
Right.
like it's easy to like
Mm-hmm.
just say, well, this is what it's going to be. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to live my life around that. Right. But that's what happens to us. So that second B, the backstory is understanding like, where did that belief come from? And reverse engineering, did it come from a past lover? Did it come from my parents? Did it come from when I was bullied in school? Like, why do I have this thought that I have? Okay. The third B, which is the most important, is the behavior. What's the behavior that it's causing in me? Is it causing me to be aggressive? Is it causing me to drink? Is it causing me to overeat? Is it causing me to procrastinate? Is it causing me to not manage my time appropriately? Is it causing me not to raise my hand in a meeting and say what I want to say, even though I have something to say, right? Like that's a behavior or a lack of behavior. And then the last B is the breaking. So how do we break the belief so that we can shift the behavior? And the breaking is a little bit different for everyone. There's no cookie cutter answer to it because we're all wired different. For some of us, we have like real deep rooted trauma. And in order to break it, like we need therapy, we need some like deeper levels of being able to break it. But I would say a good portion of individuals with their beliefs, the breaking is as simple as realizing that Bobby Jane in 12th grade hurt my feelings and I've been letting Bobby Jane impact me for the next 30 years. Why am I letting Bobby Jane impact me for 30 years? For some of us, it's that simple. One of my clients was in the wine industry. He's an executive. And he was going to get funding, right, for his startup, which he did. He did a great job. But in the beginning, he really struggled with talking. He's like, I really struggle with self-confidence. And after we went through this exercise, he was like, man, all I could remember is when I was 12 and Bob threw me in the trash can. He just kept throwing me in the trash can. I was smaller and I've never felt enough since then. And I was empathetic. I was like, yeah, that sucks that you were bullied and you were thrown in the trash can. But I want to ask you a question. You're now 60 years old. 60, Jason. You're 6 years, you're 6 years old, and you've gone through your entire life living without confidence and self-esteem because somebody that was 13 years old threw you in a trash can that was probably getting bullied or abused at home. And they were also a kid. And he was like, "You're so right." He's like, "Wow, that's like almost 50 years." I'm like, "I know. It's almost 50 years of like a 12-year-old that's had an impact on your mindset about yourself." And once he had that epiphany, he was like, "Damn, that's crazy. I got to shift that." And he was able to move past it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do the same thing, and I learned this. I don't want to take credit for it. I learned this from a man named Peter Crone. But he said, go back to that 12-year-old self, and what would you say to that 12-year-old self? And then it's usually people are crying at, I've seen, everyone, every type be crying about that because it's like, oh yeah, and then when you talk to yourself as a 12-year-old kid and you kind of have that self-awareness of like, I didn't know any better. I was just 12. I was super innocent, and so that it creates, I think it like releases the baggage,
Yeah.
because he's 60 from 12 to 60.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
crazy. But we all do it. We all have it.
We all do it because it gets reinforced in micro levels throughout our life, right? So let's say you get bullied in high school and then you have your first boyfriend and girlfriend and then they break up with you because of something. It reinforces the not enoughism. You're like, well, now I don't feel enough again. And then you go to your first job and your leader's not very kind. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe I do suck. Maybe I'm not enough. So these little things reinforce over time the belief construct. And that's why we have to be really, really careful about what we're allowing into our brain and what we're not, right? Like even to today, people will say things to me and I'm like, I will actually verbalize it, Jason. I'm like, thank you, but that's not my belief. That's your belief. And I'll actually like push my hand out, like, I don't have that belief. So like, that's not something I'm going to put into my brain because that's not my belief.
Right. 100%. Yeah, that's so good. I want to close on this question.